Hey, what is up guys? I'm KBHD here and welcome to the always sunny Hawthorne, California. There's plenty of cool stuff here. There's a Hyperloop test track 400 yards away from me. There's superchargers. But we're here at the Tesla Design Studio where you often see some of their latest and greatest stuff. What we're here for is to look at their latest and greatest car, Tesla Model 3. So, shout out to Tesla for this car, for this week, for this video. Shows they actually really care about you guys. And this is only my second time ever in a Model 3. As rare as this car is, it makes sense, but we should probably name this thing. Alright, so for a little context, Model 3 is important because of what it represents, which is essentially the final step in the master plan that Tesla outlined a couple of years ago. What they wanted to do was create, number one, a very expensive, very low volume electric car, which they did, then use that money to create a slightly more high volume, slightly less expensive car that they did, and then use that money to create a mass market, affordable electric car. That's this. So the number they landed at was starting at $35,000. But as you probably know, with a lot of cars that say starting at a certain price, almost none of those cars cost that actual price. You get some options, you kind of spec it up to look the way you want it to, and then you have that final price. Same thing with Model 3. So almost no Model 3s on the road are actually going to cost $35,000, despite this being the $35,000 Tesla. In fact, this one that we're driving this week, thanks to Tesla, has quite a few upgrades and ends up at $57,000. So the options on this car to get to that price are obviously the base price of $35,000, long range battery upgrade, so that's $9,000, the premium upgrades package, $5,000, the red multi-coat paint, which is pretty sweet, that's $1,000, the 19-inch wheels over the 18-inch that are standard, that's $1,500, and then enhanced autopilot, which is $5,000. And then there's a destination fee of $1,000, and that's how you get to your $57,000 price. So that's creeping up into Model S territory. Not quite, obviously the base price is lower, but now you find yourself not really comparing this to other $30,000 cars, but comparing it to other $50,000, $60,000 cars. That's just me. I'm gonna shamelessly compare it to the one car I know best, which is my Tesla Model S, and just embrace it. But that's how I'm gonna figure out if those options are worth it, and if Model 3 turns out to be worth the price. So let's get started. So right off the bat, something a lot of people have talked about in Model 3 versus Model S is air suspension versus this coil suspension. Model S, that bigger, slightly older, but slightly better car, has air suspension, which is very, very smooth and adjustable. And this coil suspension is not adjustable, so you can't change the height of the car, so it rides at a certain height, always. And it'll always be a certain firmness, just depending on how firm those coils are. Going over smaller bumps or potholes or even turning, you can feel it, like it's a little more pronounced and it's sharper. So air suspension smooths things out a lot more. Some people prefer air suspension. I'm one of those people. Some people actually prefer coil suspension when they feel like they like that firmer grip, but yeah, this is definitely a bit different from Model S. All right, let's give auto park a shot. Probably don't need help parking in a spot this big, but not a lot of $40,000, $50,000 cars have auto park. So you pull up in front to the car next to you. When you throw it in reverse, you get a button that says start. Press start, steering wheel starts moving. Car starts moving in reverse by itself, and you can look at the rear view mirror if you want, but it's gonna do everything from this point on without your input. This is for those of you who have a fear of parallel parking. One thing you do have to get used to though, but it didn't take me that long, is looking to the right for the speed and all the stuff that's usually behind the steering wheel. There's no tachometer obviously because there's no gears, but you still kind of want to know if you're in drive or neutral. You want to know your speed, you want to know your battery. And while you're driving, you don't want to look that far off the road, but I've actually trained my glance now to go just over to the top corner of the screen instead of behind the wheel. It's still just so quiet. Like when I turn the AC down here, No noise. No engine noise. I mean, it's electric. Makes perfect sense, but still something you gotta get used to sometimes. You start to hear every little... anything that rattles, anything that creaks, you'll hear that instead. Highway driving like this gives you opportunity just to look around the inside of the car. And I'm gonna echo a lot of things I've read about this car, but you don't really feel that until you're in it. Visibility with the glass everywhere is awesome. Rear visibility, the glass is huge. You have the glass above you. And the front glass and the hood slopes down so much that you can see right over the front of the nose of the car, and you feel like you see just the road right in front of you. So now we'd made our way up to the edge of the canyons. Now it was time for some slightly more fun and more uphill canyon driving. Alright, let's talk efficiency. So Model 3 is obviously a lighter car than Model S, so it's going to have better efficiency, slightly better. So the past 6 miles we've been driving uphill to get into these canyons, and the watt-hour per mile rating, that's a relative measure of efficiency for these cars, is pretty high. It's up over 700. But we're about to turn around and go back down those same 6 miles, and you'll see the rating is of course much lower because that's what happens when you go downhill in an electric car. Regenerative braking. Let's do it. So doing all this driving in these windy, twisty-turny roads up and down the canyons like this, you really feel things like the smaller size of this car. It's not a compact by any means, but it has a smaller steering wheel, and the steering ratio is actually tighter, so the whole car feels tighter and more agile in handling. So it actually handles better, but overall, yeah, the driving reminded me still a lot of my car. Not as fast, obviously, but still zippy and smooth, and the linear acceleration instead of gear shifting is still pretty unique. I kind of love it. All right, just like I was saying, the power of regenerative braking, we started at the top of this mountain 6 miles ago with 233 miles on this car's battery. But if you check out our efficiency, on the way down we've used an average of negative 163 watt-hours per mile, which puts us at actually adding to the battery in our past 6 miles. So now, at the top, we have 238 miles left on the battery. All right, now we're headed out of the mountains, leaving now, and we're gonna head over to the TLD studio, which is about 45 minutes. I'll show you exactly how many miles that is, but we have plenty of range to go, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring the car to them, let them see it for a little bit, check it out. Maybe they'll like it. So on our way to John's studio still, and this gives me a chance to demonstrate, since there's a lot of cars on the road, one of, I think, the most underrated features of any Tesla, which is autopilot in stop-and-go traffic. That's actually the time that I use it the most. So all I do is double tap the stalk down, which is a little different. I kind of miss that dedicated autopilot stalk. But now I can just not focus on driving. I don't have to worry about stopping. If the guy in front of me stops, my car will stop. If the guy in front of me goes, my car will go. It's that simple. If there's one thing I learned Model 3 has over Model S, it's that it's more of a unicorn. Especially out here in California, where there are Teslas and Tesla enthusiasts everywhere, this car is still actually turning heads. It's super rare. Anyway, I figured it would also be useful to get some more candid opinions of some YouTubers, including one future Tesla Model 3 owner and current reservation holder.
Looks like you got a laptop up front.
He's like, you left your laptop in.
Yeah.
I normally don't like red, but I like it on this one.
This multi-coat red. It's different from like the darker Founders red, which looks kind of brown.
Yeah, I like this red.
I'm just doing a little video now. I took plenty of nice pictures.
It's pretty cool.
Right?
It doesn't even take gas.
Wait, it doesn't take gas?
No.
Wait, where's the engine?
So yeah, general consensus was no matter how you feel about electric cars, yeah, this thing is pretty cool. Just as cool as any other Tesla. So now, as someone who has driven and experienced this Model 3 for a little while, what are my thoughts on it? On the whole experience, what you get for the money, and are all the upgrade options worth it? Well, at a base price of $35,000, I think it's pretty clear it's the best electric car in the price range right now, but that's with no options. But the options are worth considering. The long range option is $9,000, but that brings you from a base 220 mile range to 310 miles. So basically $9,000 for 90 more miles, but that's basically plus 50% range. And for a lot of people, that's actually gonna be worth it. People with longer commutes and longer daily driving. The premium interior also goes a long way for $5,000. You go from a metal roof to the glass roof. You get a much improved speaker system that, for me, qualifies as the loudest I've ever heard in a car. Heated seats, power moving seats, the wood trim in the front, and the leather seats. Just, it seems like a no-brainer to me, so go for that. The red paint, you can totally skip and save your $1,000 there, but it is beautiful. Then again, I am biased. And then the 19-inch wheels that are slightly heavier and slightly less efficient, you can also skip these no problem and get the baseline 18-inch. Keep in mind though, if you're after performance, might be best to wait all around for an all-wheel drive version of Model 3 to be announced. And then autopilot for $5,000. I don't really see how you can get a Tesla and not get autopilot, but if you do decide to go that way and then regret it later, you can pay a little more to enable it with a software update because every Tesla out the factory has all the cameras and all the sensors to make it happen. But bottom line, I think this is a good-looking, good driving electric car, and for the price, it does some things even better than Model S right now, like the futuristic air conditioner vent that's controlled on the touchscreen that can redirect airflow at your face or around your head. Pretty awesome. The bigger area of glass around the back and the top of this car gives you more headroom, or just like the little things, like the way the front trunk opens and closes easier, or the touchscreen UI is a little bit cleaner and a little bit faster. A lot of the stuff I'd expect to see in a Model S refresh pretty soon, but it's obviously all still great to see in this cheaper car too. So it's pretty clear I'm a fan of the Model 3. I was before I came out here to drive it, and I still am now that I have. So that's been episode 1 of Autofocus. If you enjoyed it, definitely hit that like button and let me know what car should I check out next. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.